Hey, I'm Eugene and I build and rank websites. So you've got a website, but you're not showing up anywhere in Google. I mean, that's probably the most popular question that I get asked is, hey, check out this site that I got. I paid 10 grand for it, sometimes 20, sometimes 30, but it doesn't show up anywhere in Google. It's a pretty tough question to ask because a lot of people expect answers, and to get those answers, we probably need to understand what the question actually is. What do you want to show up for? For example, do you want to show up for your brand? Do you want to show up for Jim's plumbing services or John Smith's accounting practice? Or do you want to show up for a certain keyword? So you need to have an idea in place on what term you want to actually show up for. For example, if we want to rank for Egyptian snow shovels, where no one looks for that keyword, it won't be hard to show up for those terms as long as on your page you've got the term Egyptian snow shovels, or your website is egyptiansnowshovels.com. So understand what keyword you want to rank for. Give me a sec. It's a pretty hard question to answer. So I'm going to sort of, without getting too technical, explain what I would be looking for straight away. So first of all, know what keyword you wanna show up for, and then find out how popular those terms are. So for example, wedding venue Melbourne or wedding photographer, fair to say it's very, very, very popular keywords, very competitive. There's 300 wedding venues in Melbourne. There's probably 3,000 wedding photographers in Melbourne. So let's say you register your domain, you pay for a beautiful website. Don't expect it just to pop up. So there's a big difference between website design and SEO. SEO is the process of climbing the ranks in Google and essentially getting your website to show up. There's a lot of people, when they buy a beautiful website, they get an amazing website created, have an expectation that it's just going to climb the ranks itself and it's just going to pop up on the first page of Google, and then they get upset at the web guy that did it. Well, you got what you paid for. You asked for a good looking website, and that's exactly what you got. The website will convert, but as long as there's traffic going to it. So website construction and driving the traffic are two very, very different things. So don't be upset at your web guy if you built your good website and what's next? You're not showing up anywhere. So I'm sort of looping a little bit, but now we want to, after this, I'm going to jump in and maybe show some details on how we find out how popular a certain keyword is. So if you're starting out and your term is wedding photographer Melbourne, I'd keep away from that term. Obviously, we want to rank for it, but you're up against 2,000 or 3,000 other photographers. So there's strategies in place that help you rank locally, help you rank in your local suburb first, or maybe you niche down to a smaller niche. You might be a photographer for real estate, for example. I mean, that's probably just as popular as weddings. So find out the terms that you want to rank for. Find out how popular those terms are, and I'll share how you can use some free tools to find out how many times a certain month a certain keyword gets entered. Then you want to have a look at how many competitors are there, generally speaking. Then you need to decide where you actually want to show up. People just say, I want to show up in Google. Well, great. You can show up on Google Maps. You can show up on organic. You can show up in the ad space. Then of course there's Facebook advertising as well. So there's many ways you can show up. So for example, if you are a local business, you really want to be ranking in the 3-pack of maps. So if you've ever typed in, dentist near me or chicken shop near me, you'll have your ads at the top, and then you'll have your maps listings. It's your 3-pack of maps that you can click into if you want. You'll have even more of them on the maps. But that's where you want to be, and you generally want to show up in the organic. So just know your space. The reason you want to know that is this next step is crucial, and it's look who's currently ranking in your space. If you want to rank for, a long time ago, I got excited. I registered a domain, bestgaminglaptop.com. And I thought, wow, I'm a genius. I've got this domain. But I didn't do any of this research, and I started putting a lot of money and time into building this amazing website with lots of pages, and it just got absolutely nowhere. Well, if I was to do that right now, I'd probably still get nowhere, because if you type in best gaming laptop, you're going to have some seriously powerful websites that have been there for 30 years, dominating all of those keywords. They're very expensive keywords to rank for. Or for example, lawyer Melbourne, or injury lawyer Melbourne, or even just in like the plumbing or electrician space, very, very difficult to rank. So whatever term you want to rank for, find out A, how many people are searching for it, and B, who's already dominating that space. I mean, do you even have a chance of showing up? Don't get disheartened and think, oh, if they're already ranking, I'm not going to get anywhere. The mindset should be big chunk of a small pie than no chunk of a big pie. In other words, be the plumber of Brighton instead of the plumber of Melbourne. You'll get to plumber of Melbourne, but you have to conquer the local suburbs. So your website has to dominate in either a niche. You might be a plumber for schools. I'm just making stuff up, but that's a niche. Means there's going to be less search volume, but it's also going to be less competitive. Hope I'm not losing you. So when we look at who ranks in the space, sure, if we type in best gaming laptop or dentist Brighton, have a look at their site, have a look at their website, have a look at their service pages, have a look at their blogs. After this, I'm going to sort of share how you can have a look how many pages they have. It's actually really, really simple. You type a certain query into Google and it says, hey, this website has 80,000 pages. Well, if it's got 80,000 pages, you're not going to go and do that. So maybe that's not a keyword that you want to go for just yet. Maybe avoid dentist Melbourne or dentist in Victoria. Maybe go for dentist Brighton. Even that will be competitive enough. So when you're looking at a website, you sort of want to find out, like, what are they actively doing on it? Are they publishing blogs? You can generally find a section of news and blogs. If they've got a blog going up each week, it means there's a marketing team that are constantly working on building up this website. It means Google will be recognizing this. It means you're up against them. So if they're publishing, hundreds of blogs every year, or even a blog a week, is enough to tell you, right, so they've got writers in place. Writers cost money. You have a look at their service pages. You have a look at how things are written. You go to their social media pages and you see how many followers they have. Just see how often they post, and then you get an understanding of, hey, this is very competitive, or it's not very competitive. For example, I caught up with Roger from Fit to Box the other day, and we were looking at local rankings for boxing classes, and I saw a whole bunch of Wix and Weebly websites, and there wasn't much traffic in those keywords. And I actually registered a domain just for giggles, and I'm going to build it, and I'll maybe share results on it, but I feel like I can jump in and rank quite easily in that space. So if the term is getting a lot of search volume and the websites are big, just don't fight that battle. You're probably never going to win it. Neither will I if I go for something like injury lawyer, right? It costs a lot to get up there. So you've had a look at the terms, you've had a look at competitors, you've had a look at who ranks, and you're starting to understand. And this could take hours to figure this out, maybe even sort of weeks while you're doing your research. Right, I'm going to go for this term because it doesn't seem too competitive, and maybe I can help you with that. Shoot me your website, shoot me what keywords you think you want to rank for. I might come back and say, no, these are the actual terms you want to rank for. And so then we have a look at your website, and the first question is, well, how new is it? First of all, if it's within 4 weeks, it's just not going to show up anywhere, because Google is taking their sweet time indexing. Indexing means adding you to their list somewhere in the hundreds. Who knows for what keyword? Hopefully your brand. Now, let's say you start taking this stuff seriously and you start doing SEO and you start creating blogs and being mentioned all around the internet and your social media is going crazy and you've made heaps of pages, it's actually going to take you about 6 months to get out of what's called the Google sandbox. The sandbox is like this trust period. Essentially, any website that goes live, Google has an approach where you're guilty until you're proven innocent. So I don't trust you. I don't trust any new website. There's just a lot of dark places online, so there's a big trust phase. Plus, there's already hundreds, if not thousands, of websites that have been around for a long time that have proven themselves to Google with quality content and things that Google see people spending time on those websites. Why should they consider you? So there's going to be a phase. Sometimes it goes for a year. So it's called a sandbox. And if your website goes live and you've just got your couple of service pages and that's it, you just leave it, well, you're going to be somewhere on page 10, 15. You're not going to jump to anywhere that has people searching, more than 10 times a month. So you get past so if your website is within 4 weeks, you're just not going to show up most likely. Within 6 months, you'll show up somewhere. Just don't expect it to be page 1. Now, the big question, I don't want to start what is your website built with? A lot of big arguments. You got Wix, you got Weebly, you got Squarespace. I build my websites with WordPress. I started building my websites with Wix many years ago. I did a lot of Squarespace websites, a lot of Weebly websites. The way I see it is, whether it's Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, it's all much of a muchness. You can get a beautiful website up and running, and I've actually I'll post a link to the YouTube video where I explain the differences between them and which one's best for SEO. But essentially, they're in the same bracket. If it's a competitive space, you're not going to get anywhere, unfortunately. So if you're running a Squarespace or a Wix or a Weebly website, I wouldn't spend money trying to rank for terms that are getting more than 50 search volumes a month. So for example, wedding photographer, you should be on WordPress. Boxing studio, Brighton, for example, that doesn't get that much terms. You're on. There's about 90 hits there. So let's just say that if I see Wix and Wii websites ranking at the top, that's a sign for me to quickly build out a WordPress website, because that's going to be easy to beat. So what CMS are you running? And so if you are running one of those three, that's fine. You don't need to. If you want to rank, yes, you got to go to WordPress, but you still can run a Google ad or a Facebook ad, or you can still sort of show up on Google Maps. Are you disadvantaged in the long run? Absolutely. So it just depends on expectations as well. So we're talking about showing up in Google here. WordPress it does very well, and there's plenty of numbers to prove it. All you got to do is just type in wedding photographer Melbourne or any of those keywords, dentist, and you'll see generally WordPress is at the top. Can be quite a heated conversation with the wrong people. So let me just have a drink. So then the question is, how many high quality pages do you have on your website compared to who's ranking at the top? So the reason we went through this exercise is, at the top, we're looking at the terms, we're looking at the other websites, and we get an understanding of, hey, Google is choosing them for a certain reason. They've got this many pages, they've got this many blogs. Now, let's have a look at our website. How many high quality pages do we have? For example, how many different services do you offer? Is each of those service pages an individual page, or have you just listed them? Does each of those pages clearly display the main keyword at the top in the title? Is there enough text supporting that keyword? So in other words, we're talking about authority. So when Google visits that website, your website, it reads through things. Is this a trustworthy website? Does he answer the queries well enough? Now, that could be supporting content like blogs or guides or FAQ, but that content needs to be created in a certain way where it answers a certain query. So for example, you know, in the home improvement space, in the construction space, you definitely want a blog, you know, should I build a timber home or a brick home or something like that, like a question that genuinely gets asked in Google, you'll answer it. You know, 2, 3, sometimes 4,000 words of text. That's a lot of text. So if you hire a writer, the cheapest writer is about 6 cents per a word, US dollars. So it could be quite costly, and it could be a pretty you know, steep learning curve. Now I'll keep going down. Another big one is mentions from other websites. In order to rank, at the end of the day, any highly competitive website, a very serious ranking signal is being mentioned by other websites, especially being mentioned by other websites in your space. So if you're a wedding venue and a wedding photographer mentions you, that's amazing for you. Vice versa for that photographer as well. If that wedding venue mentions that photographer, that's great. Or if you're a you know, a doctor, you're a heart surgeon, for example, and then another medical website, a cardiologist, lists you on their website, that's a mention from another website. That's good. More of those, you win. Without me being too technical, at the end of the day, when it gets super competitive, the person with the more high quality links, high quality mentions will win, right? It's a mixture of a lot of things. I'm not going to talk about the algorithm today. I've got different videos to explain that. I'm just answering simple questions. You know, what are the factors, you know, why you might not be showing up. So then when Google visits your page, there are certain basic things it's looking for. Your website might be missing those things. It might be missing a title or a meta description, or it might want to see your keyword on the page a certain amount of times. What is that magical amount of times? Well, just look at the top 10 and just see what they're doing. Don't copy them, but just see, right, that keyword is there 5 times. I should do that as well. Now, if you don't rank, if you don't show up, maybe change the goalpost. Maybe that keyword is just too difficult. Just like me and my best gaming laptop, I even registered a best gaming keyboard, best gaming mouse, and I spent a lot of time and money building things out and hiring writers, and I got absolutely nowhere. I think the best I got to was like page 3, because there's just so many big websites, you know, JB Hi-Fi, Harvey Norman, PC Gamer, all of those techie websites that are gunning for those keywords because those keywords are making them a lot of money. Another one is search intent. So let's say you want to rank for leather sofa, because that's what you do. You're a small business in Brighton and you want to sell leather sofas. Well, guess what? If you type in leather sofa, generally if you look at the top, you're going to see what's called e-commerce websites. These are websites that sell things online. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. So actually type in your keyword and see what shows up, because if they're all e-commerce websites, in other words, online shops, well, why would a small business from Brighton all of a sudden just appear there? So for you, maybe to rank for those terms, you'll rank on Google Maps. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to now jump to a couple of strategies that, you know, that I implement to a lot of my clients' websites and my websites, of how we actually get visitors to the website. So first of all, we've got SEO, so search engine optimization. In other words, doing something to your website on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, essentially sculpting, adding things to your website. Or another way to look at it is we're building a house with the right foundations, we're building multiple stories, right? Every week there's a new story that goes up. Every week the backyard gets better. We get a pool added and things like that. So SEO is a long-term strategy. So it's a never-ending game, because the competitors are doing as well. So level 1 is SEO. Show up on Google Maps. Show up in organic. You'll get traffic. Traffic will eventually lead to inquiries, depending on, you know, if they're seeing what they like. If they click on your website and they're looking for cats and you're showing dogs, well, they're going to bounce out. So you might get the traffic. Eventually you'll Google will rank you lower because they're seeing visitors bounce off your website. Then we can show up locally. When someone types in, so Cafe Brighton. Yes, that is what you think, by the way. It's Friday, so I'm allowed. Terms that have the suburb inside, Dr. Brighton or near me, right? So that's called local SEO. It's a little bit different because local SEO involves us proving to Google that we are definitely in this suburb. We're in this city, depends on what we want to rank for. We're proving to Google that we're the best answer in this area. That's called local SEO, where you show up on Google Maps and you show up in local areas. Then to drive traffic, we can run a Google ad. A Google ad is essentially saying, all right, Mr. Google, we know what our keyword is. Our keyword is wedding DJ or dentist, Brighton, hypothetically. As soon as someone types in those keywords, we intercept and we pay Google and say, hey Google, we want that visitor. That visitor then goes to wherever we send them. We'll send them to a page that's designed to, if it's a dentist, to show them all of the offerings that they might want. Maybe it's especially emergency dentist. You're going to show them something that's relevant to them, book a consultation or something like that. If it's a wedding DJ, you're going to show them all the various, music styles and all the various different parties. In other words, social proof. So Google Ads means SEO is a long-term strategy. Google Ads is instant. So it's reactive marketing. So someone's looking for something, bang, we can drive them to our website at a cost per click. It's instant results. This is more of a rental strategy. Then you have Facebook ads. Facebook ads is reactive marketing, means they're not expecting us to show up. Also can drive instant results. However, you're at the disposal of the categories within Facebook. For example, if we want to sell baby products, amazing. Facebook has a category, parents with 1-year-olds, parents with 5-year-olds. So everything that falls under that category, or relationship status engaged. If you're getting engaged, you're going to need a wedding venue, you're going to need a wedding photographer, wedding DJ. So that's great. But if you want to sell a product like accounting services or stuff that doesn't have a category, sure, you can. It will still work. It's just you're going to have to spend a bit more cash to see who's actually coming in, and so Google will actually, Facebook will, after you spend, let's say $500, they'll say, hey, these are the kinds of people that actually clicked, and hopefully you get an inquiry, and Facebook will tell you the person that's looking for your product is actually 45 years old. These are their characteristics. So you're at the disposal of the categories. So in some cases, if you've only got a limited budget, I might say Facebook is amazing, go hard on Facebook. Other times I'll say Google Ads. Depends on the keyword, depends on the category. So just depends on the business. Then you have something called retargeting. Retargeting means if someone spends any time on your website, especially a specific page, you can follow them around on Google, those banner images, for example, or on Facebook. Let's say someone visits a section of your website that's about, let's say our website is a construction company and they were on a page about bathroom renovations. Well, they spent a bit of time, means they're somewhat interested in bathroom renovations. We can pixel them, so then when they get off your website, we can show them pictures and we can re-advertise to them on their device on Instagram, on Facebook, and show them, hey, these are the types of bathroom renovations we've done in the past. So but that means that they needed to be on your website. We needed to trigger that pixel somehow. Another one look, there's a lot of strategies of driving traffic. These are the ones that I've just become quite good at and I'm quite comfortable with it. Another one that no one really talks about is actually, there's a lot of directories out there. So I have a lot of wedding directories, wedding DJs, wedding celebrants, stylists, anything to do in the wedding space. Usually my directories are hovering around the top. And one of the ways that you can get a bit of exposure is if you see a directory in your space, just contact them. just send them an email. There's usually a contact form. There's usually a way there's a Chrome extension that will just give you the email of the website. Just hit them up. Every time anyone contacts me about any of my directories, I list them for free. I don't want anything for it. Actually, what I do is I ask them, hey, in return, just mention us. So in other words, I'm getting mentions back to our website. So it's helping my SEO. But it means that if I see another directory that I want to be listed in, I'll contact them. A lot of the time it's, sometimes there might be a cost to it, but if they're ranking at the top, why not, start a relationship to list you even at a small cost. Depends on what the cost is, of course. So hopefully that I didn't have to share my screen. I didn't want to make it too technical. Hopefully that makes sense as to, why your website might not show up. Once again, to recap, what do you want to show up for? Start off by showing up for your brand keywords, John Smith or, whatever the brand is. That's the goal. Then find a keyword that isn't too competitive. So keep away from anything with high volume, super competitive. You'll just get disheartened. Look at the websites that are already ranking without any technical background. You can just click through them and just see, hey, these pages look great. These guys, whoever's doing this is quite serious. And then eventually you'll hit pages that are not very serious, that are more basic. Yeah, you can beat these. You can do better than these. Also know where you want to show up. Do you want to show up in a local suburb? Do you want to show up on maps? Do you want to show up nationally? Because then that changes the game. Obviously look at who ranks in the space, how strong their websites are. Now, obviously your site, how new is it? Is it mature? How many pages do you have? How many blogs do you have? Is it built, I keep pushing this, is it built with WordPress? Because if it's not, you don't need to do blogs. Your life is easier. Don't spend time on writers. Don't do blogs. Don't need to go seriously heavy on pages. You're probably not going to rank anyway. So just allocate that money. That could be a good thing to Google ads, for example, or Facebook ads. There's nothing wrong with not doing SEO. Sometimes I'll say, hey, there's nothing to rank here for. You're in the cosmetic space. Well, what are we going to rank for? Lipstick doesn't work that way. Or you create shoes. Well, what are we going to rank for? Just shoes? Nike and Adidas are in that space. So that's where something like Facebook ads or influencer marketing will work, or not even a Google ad. What are we going to pay for? So sometimes SEO is not the answer. Sometimes Google ads is not the answer. Maybe it's Facebook, or sometimes it's everything put together. I call it omnipresent, especially for a local business. I do things where I rank on maps and we run Google ads. And we run a Facebook ad just hitting that area, so everyone in the space knows what we do. And then if they spend time on our website, then we retarget to them. So we're just there. Another level is I build lots of directories. So for a wedding venue, I built heaps of pages on every supplier, so we own that space as well. If you have any questions, hit me up, send me your website. I'm happy to do a basic audit. I'll create a video for you. Tell me who we need to beat. Show me your competitors, what keywords you want to rank for. Book me in. Let's have a beer. Let's have a catch up. Hopefully this has been helpful. I'm just going to keep having a sip. Just give me a sec. But I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Now I done grew around some people living their life in bottles. Granddaddy had the golden flask, extra